Life has an extraordinary way of teaching us lessons in the most unexpected forms. Sometimes it teaches through joy, but most often it teaches through problems. Problems arrive uninvited, they disturb our plans, they shake our beliefs, and they test our patience. But if we pause for a moment and look deeper, we will realize that every problem is not the end. It is an invitation to create something new, something better, something stronger than before. When problems strike, our first instinct is to complain, to ask, why me? But maybe the right question should be, what can I create from this? Because problems are not punishments, they are possibilities dressed in discomfort. Think of all the great inventions, breakthroughs, and inspiring stories in the world. They were not born from comfort, but from challenges. The light bulb was born after countless failures, medicines were discovered after endless trials, and art was painted from the colors of pain. Behind every problem, there is a seed of creativity waiting to be planted. A problem is not a wall, it is a doorway. Sometimes life closes one path so we can discover another. You may lose a job, but perhaps that loss is pushing you to start a business. You may lose someone you love, but that pain might lead you to discover the strength of compassion and empathy for others. Every time life shakes you, it is preparing you for something new. You don't need to fear problems, you need to use them as raw material to build something greater. Yes, problems hurt. Yes, they are difficult. But they also awaken resilience. They show us how strong we really are. You don't discover your courage when everything is easy. You discover it when everything falls apart. You don't know your potential when the sun is shining. You find it when the storm rages, and yet you rise. That is the gift of a problem. It forces you to create solutions, to create growth, to create a new version of yourself. So the next time you are faced with a problem, don't run from it. Don't see it as the end. Instead, see it as the beginning of something new. Ask yourself, what is this moment teaching me? What can I build from this? And how can this problem help me make an impact beyond myself? Because sometimes, the very problem you are fighting becomes the reason you inspire others. Sometimes your wounds become someone else's source of healing. Every problem carries a hidden opportunity. You can choose to drown in it, or you can choose to rise and create from it. The choice will always be yours. Problems are hidden blessings, though in the moment they rarely feel that way. When life suddenly turns upside down and everything seems to fall apart, it feels unfair, heavy, and painful. We question why such things happen to us, and we often believe that problems exist only to make life miserable. But if we look back on the most difficult seasons of our lives, we will notice that those very struggles were the stepping stones that shaped us into who we are today. A problem is not simply an obstacle, it is a disguised blessing carrying lessons, growth, and opportunities we would never discover otherwise. Think about it. When life is smooth, when everything goes according to plan, we rarely pause to reflect, learn, or grow. Comfort zones may feel safe, but they rarely produce strength. Problems, on the other hand, force us to think differently, to act boldly, and to stretch beyond our limits. They break our routines and challenge our beliefs, making us question everything we thought we knew. And it is in this disruption that transformation begins. What we see as a curse often becomes the very thing that leads us to purpose. A hidden blessing within every problem is the gift of resilience. You may never know how strong you are until life demands you to be. Problems have a way of pushing us beyond what we imagined possible, and in that pressure we discover strength we never thought we had. People who inspire us today, those who built empires, those who overcame tragedies, those who created change in the world, are not people who lived problem-free lives. They are people who looked at their problems as teachers rather than enemies. Their challenges became fuel for growth, and that fuel lit a fire that carried them forward. Another blessing hidden in problems is clarity. Sometimes life uses problems to redirect us. A closed door may feel like rejection, but in reality it is protection. A failed plan may feel devastating, but perhaps it was never the right path for us. Problems strip away illusions and force us to face truth. They teach us what truly matters and help us let go of what does not. Through struggles, we learn to appreciate small joys, relationships, health, and peace, things we often take for granted until we almost lose them. Problems remind us that life is fragile, and because of that it is also precious. Problems also bring out creativity. Innovation is often born in discomfort. When the usual ways of doing things no longer work, we are forced to find new solutions. Some of the world's greatest inventions and breakthroughs came from people facing problems. Pain pushed them to think differently, to search deeply, and to create what the world had never seen before. Without their problems, they may never have found their purpose. Likewise, our personal problems push us to grow into new versions of ourselves, to create strength, hope, and wisdom where none existed before. There is also a spiritual blessing hidden in problems. Struggles humble us, reminding us that we cannot control everything. They soften our hearts and awaken compassion, making us more understanding toward others. When we face challenges, we begin to recognize the pain of those around us. We see humanity with kinder eyes because we know what it feels like to suffer. This humility and empathy is a blessing that can never be learned from books or comfort. It is only birthed in the fire of trials. Sometimes blessings take time to reveal themselves. In the moment of pain, it is hard to see any good. But often, when we look back, we realize that the problem we cursed was the reason we found strength, growth, and direction. The betrayal that broke us may have been the reason we discovered our true worth. The failure that disappointed us may have led us to a greater success. The illness that slowed us down may have helped us value life deeply. In hindsight, problems often reveal themselves as blessings in disguise. The truth is, problems are not here to destroy us, they are here to shape us. They are the chisels that carve away our fears, doubts, and weaknesses, revealing the masterpiece hidden within us. Every problem we face carries a blessing, but it is up to us to search for it. We can either see problems as curses and drown in them, or we can choose to uncover the hidden lessons and use them as stepping stones. When we shift our perspective, when we begin to see every problem as a potential blessing, our lives are no longer filled with fear but with possibility. And in that shift, problems lose their power to break us. They become the very force that builds us. Pain sparks creativity in ways that comfort never can. When everything in life is going smoothly, when we are wrapped in ease and familiarity, our minds tend to stay within the boundaries of what we already know. Comfort rarely forces us to search for something new. But pain, whether it comes from heartbreak, loss, failure, or struggle, has a way of cracking us open and exposing parts of us that we never knew existed. It strips away illusions, shakes us out of routine, and pushes us into the raw truth of life. In that rawness, creativity is born. It is in the moments when words cannot explain what we feel that we reach for music, for paint, for stories, for invention. Pain becomes the fire that forges creation. Throughout history, some of the greatest works of art, literature, and innovation were birthed not from joy, but from suffering. Artists have taken their heartbreak and turned it into timeless songs. Writers have poured their grief into pages that still speak to hearts across generations. Inventors have faced failure after failure until frustration gave birth to breakthroughs. Pain demands expression, and when words fail, it finds a way to turn into something that touches the world. The beauty of creativity born from pain is that it is not artificial, it is authentic, raw, and deeply human. People connect with it because they too have known pain. Pain also has a way of forcing us to think differently. When something hurts deeply, when life doesn't go as planned, we realize that the old way of living will not work anymore. We are forced to find a new path, a new way to cope, a new way to survive. And in that search, the mind begins to stretch beyond its usual limits. Suddenly, ideas come that would have never surfaced without the discomfort. Struggles give birth to solutions because the human spirit is wired not just to endure, but to transform. On a personal level, pain brings out forms of creativity we might never have discovered otherwise. Think about people who write poetry in moments of heartbreak. Their words flow because pain refuses to stay silent. Think about those who paint when they feel trapped in emotions too heavy to carry. Their canvases become mirrors of their soul. Creativity in these moments is not just about producing art, it is about survival. It is a way of processing what cannot be explained. Pain creates cracks in our hearts, but through those cracks, imagination and creation find their way out. Pain also deepens empathy, and empathy fuels creativity. When you have suffered, you see the world differently. You hear people's stories not as distant echoes, but as familiar songs of struggle. This awareness makes your creative expression more powerful, more relatable. A song written from pain will resonate because others will hear their own story in it. A book crafted out of loss will comfort because readers will feel less alone. Pain bridges the gap between humans, and creativity becomes the language that connects hearts across different walks of life. There is also a hidden strength in the creativity born from pain. It is timeless. The world may celebrate success, but it rarely remembers comfort. What it remembers, what it holds on to, are the creations that came from someone's struggle. That is because pain touches the universal human experience, no one escapes it. Creativity born from such places does not just entertain, it heals. It reminds us that even in suffering, beauty can rise. It tells us that brokenness is not the end, but often the beginning of something greater. Pain, while difficult, teaches us to see beyond what is visible. It awakens the imagination to look for meaning in chaos, to find light in the dark, and to transform wounds into wisdom. Without pain, there would be no urge to search for healing, no hunger for change, no need to create a different world. Pain may seem like a burden, but it is also the catalyst for some of the deepest forms of human expression. In many ways, pain becomes the silent teacher, and creativity becomes the student that translates its lessons into form, sound, and vision. The paradox is simple yet profound. The very thing that breaks us is the same thing that pushes us to create something that can heal us, and sometimes even heal others. Pain does not come to destroy creativity, it comes to ignite it. When embraced, It becomes the spark that lights fires of imagination, invention, and art that comfort never could. And that is why pain, though bitter, is often the birthplace of beauty. Failures redirect us in ways we often cannot see in the moment. When we fail, the immediate feeling is disappointment, shame, or even despair. We wonder why things didn't work out despite our effort, we question our worth, and sometimes we are tempted to give up entirely. But with time, if we choose to look at failure differently, we realize that it is not a dead end but a redirection. Failure has a way of closing doors that are not meant for us and guiding us toward paths we may never have considered otherwise. What feels like loss often becomes protection. What feels like rejection often becomes redirection, and what feels like the end often becomes the beginning of something new. Failure strips us of illusions. We may think we know exactly how our life should go, but failure reminds us that life is bigger than our plans. It interrupts the stories we have written for ourselves and forces us to think beyond them. Sometimes we become so attached to a dream, a relationship, or a career path that we cannot see its flaws or limitations. Failure steps in to show us the truth. It teaches us that perhaps the thing we wanted so desperately was never meant to be ours, or that it was not the best thing for us. This redirection can feel cruel, but in reality, it is life steering us towards something more aligned with who we are meant to become. Think of how many successful people reached their greatness not because everything went right, but because so much went wrong. Entrepreneurs who failed in business countless times found their groundbreaking idea only after repeated setbacks. Authors whose manuscripts were rejected hundreds of times eventually wrote works that touched millions of lives. Innovators whose experiments exploded in their faces eventually discovered inventions that changed the world. Each failure was not an ending but a signpost pointing them closer to the right direction. Had they succeeded easily the first time, they might never have discovered the deeper path that was waiting for them. Failure also teaches resilience and wisdom. Success does not demand much reflection, it can make us complacent, even blind to our weaknesses. Failure, on the other hand, holds a mirror to our flaws, limitations, and mistakes. It humbles us and forces us to grow. It teaches us to adapt, to think differently, to persevere when things don't go our way. This growth is essential because without it, even success can be fragile. A person who succeeds without ever failing may crumble when the first storm comes. But a person who has failed and risen again has the strength to endure anything. The redirection of failure is not just about guiding us to a new path. It is also about shaping us into someone strong enough to walk that path. Failure is also a teacher of creativity. When one method fails, we are forced to try another. When one road is blocked, we are compelled to find another route. This constant redirection fuels innovation. Many of the world's greatest discoveries were the result of accidents or mistakes. Failure pushes us to think beyond what is comfortable, and in that process, we often stumble upon something far greater than what we originally sought. The redirection is not always obvious in the moment, but with time it reveals itself as the very thing we needed. On a personal level, failure often saves us from paths that would have drained us or broken us. A failed relationship may feel like heartbreak, but perhaps it saved you from years of unhappiness. A failed job interview may feel like rejection, but perhaps it saved you from being stuck in a career that was not fulfilling. Failure hurts, but sometimes it is life's way of protecting us from what we cannot yet see. What we perceive as loss is often grace in disguise. Failures also redirect us inward. They remind us that our worth is not defined by achievements or external validation. When everything falls apart, we are forced to look within, to rediscover who we are, and to rebuild from a deeper place of authenticity. Failure strips away the masks we wear and leads us back to ourselves. And from that place of truth, we are able to step into paths that are more aligned with our values, dreams, and purpose. Every failure we face is part of a larger map. We may not see the full picture while standing in the middle of disappointment, but as time passes and we connect the dots, we realize that every failure was moving us closer to where we were meant to be. Life's detours are not accidents. They are intentional redirections. And though they may sting at first, they often lead us to places far better than we could have planned for ourselves. Resilience transforms challenges into strength in ways that nothing else can. Life is filled with moments that test us, moments where we feel as though we are at our breaking point. And yet, it is in those very moments that resilience is born. Resilience is not the absence of pain or the denial of struggle, it is the quiet determination to keep going despite them. When difficulties arise, resilience steps in as the bridge between suffering and strength, turning wounds into wisdom and setbacks into stepping stones. Challenges may seem like mountains meant to crush us, but resilience teaches us to climb them. And in the climb, we build muscles we never knew we had. Every challenge carries with it an opportunity, though it rarely appears that way at first. When hardships arrive, they often come with fear, disappointment, and exhaustion. We question whether we are capable of surviving them, Yet resilience whispers that survival is not just possible, but transformation is inevitable. It takes the weight of challenges and molds them into a form of inner power. A person who has never faced obstacles may appear strong, but their strength is untested, fragile, and uncertain. On the other hand, a person who has endured storms, setbacks, and heartbreak carries a strength that is unshakable because it was forged in fire. Resilience does not erase the struggle, it repurposes it. Pain that once seemed unbearable becomes the very proof of endurance. Fear that once paralyzed us becomes the foundation of courage. Failures that once humiliated us become the lessons that guide us toward success. It is through resilience that challenges stop being enemies and start becoming teachers. Every difficulty leaves behind a gift, and resilience is the force that unwraps it. What once felt like suffering begins to reveal itself as strength in disguise. One of the most powerful aspects of resilience is that it builds character. It teaches patience in the face of delays, humility in the face of loss, and perseverance in the face of defeat. Life does not always give us what we want, but it always gives us what we need to grow. Without resilience, challenges leave us bitter, but with resilience, challenges leave us better. The difference lies in how we respond. Resilience allows us to shift perspective and see that struggles are not meant to destroy us, but to shape us into individuals who can withstand more than we ever imagined. Resilience also deepens empathy and compassion. When we endure struggles, we become more aware of the struggles of others. We understand pain on a deeper level, and that understanding makes us kinder, more forgiving, and more supportive. The strength that resilience builds is not only for ourselves, it is also for the people around us. By surviving challenges, we become beacons of hope for others who are facing their own storms. Our strength becomes their reminder that they, too, can overcome. Challenges are inevitable, but they are not meaningless. They carry within them the seeds of strength, waiting to be unlocked through resilience. Life's trials, though unwanted, are often the very things that prepare us for greater responsibilities, deeper love, and higher purposes. If everything were easy, if we never had to fight, endure, or wait, we would never discover the depths of our spirit. It is resilience that transforms the weight of difficulty into the wings of strength, allowing us not only to survive but also to soar. In every story of triumph, resilience is the hidden thread. Behind every success is a history of challenges overcome. Behind every smile is a tale of tears endured, and behind every strength is a chapter of struggle. Resilience does not promise that life will be easy, but it promises that no challenge will be wasted. It gathers every difficulty, every heartbreak, every failure, and turns them into tools that build a stronger, wiser, and more courageous version of ourselves. Challenges will always come, but with resilience, we learn to rise from them with greater strength than before. Every problem is a chance to contribute, not only to our own growth but also to the lives of others. When we are faced with difficulties, it is natural to look at them as burdens meant to weigh us down, but hidden inside each problem is an opportunity to step beyond ourselves and create value that reaches far beyond our own circumstances. Problems are not merely obstacles to endure, they are invitations to rise, to respond with creativity, and to leave behind something that serves others. Each struggle we face carries within it the possibility of building solutions, sharing wisdom, and inspiring those who are walking similar paths. When problems arise, our instinct is often to ask why this is happening to us. But perhaps the better question is, what can I do with this? Life struggles are not random, they are chances to contribute something meaningful to the world. A person who has experienced poverty and hardship may one day create opportunities for others through charity or innovation. Someone who has battled illness may dedicate their life to improving healthcare or comforting those in pain. Someone who has endured rejection or failure may become a voice of encouragement for others who feel the same sting. The very problems that once hurt us often become the foundation of our ability to give back. Problems sharpen our empathy. When we go through difficult times, we begin to understand the pain of others in a way that words alone cannot teach us. This understanding becomes a gift we can share. It allows us to create solutions, write stories, build movements, or simply extend compassion in ways that heal hearts. Every problem we face plants within us a seed of empathy, and when that seed grows, it allows us to make contributions that are authentic and deeply impactful. Without problems, we may never know the depth of human suffering, and without that knowledge, our contributions would lack meaning. Every great innovation and breakthrough was born from a problem. Electricity was discovered because darkness was a problem. Vaccines were created because disease was a problem. Technology advanced because communication distance and limitations were problems. Human beings have always used problems as stepping stones to create, improve, and contribute. This is the essence of progress. Every difficulty opens the door for a solution, and every solution adds value to humanity. What appears to be a setback is often the spark for contribution that benefits generations. On a personal level, problems give us the chance to contribute by sharing our stories. There is power in vulnerability, in saying, I have been through this and I survived. When we speak from our scars, we give others the courage to face their wounds. When we share our lessons, we help others avoid mistakes or endure them with more hope. Our problems are not meant to isolate us, they are meant to connect us. They become bridges through which we can touch lives and remind people that they are not alone in their battles. Problems also invite us to rise above self-centeredness. When everything is easy, we can become absorbed in our own world, focused only on personal comfort. But problems wake us up to the reality that life is bigger than ourselves. They remind us that we are part of a larger story, one where our experiences, even the painful ones, can serve as tools to uplift others. A problem may force us to step out of our own bubble and realize how much of a difference we can make when we turn our struggles into service. Sometimes the contribution is small, like comforting a friend who is going through a challenge we once faced. Sometimes it is large, like creating organizations' inventions or works of art that transform lives. But whether small or great, every contribution born from a problem has the power to ripple outward, touching people in ways we may never fully see. Problems give us a choice to drown in self-pity or to rise and create something meaningful from the pain. Every problem we encounter is a chance to grow, yes, but more importantly, it is a chance to give. It is an opportunity to take what once tried to break us and turn it into something that builds others. It is the chance to leave behind not just survival, but significance. And in doing so, we discover that our problems were never just about us. They were about awakening the potential within us to contribute to the world in ways only we could. So in the end, every problem is not just a weight we carry, but a doorway we are invited to walk through. It is a reminder that even in our darkest moments, we can choose to rise and turn our pain into purpose. Every challenge can become a story that uplifts, every struggle can become a solution that helps, and every wound can become a source of wisdom for someone else. When we stop seeing problems as punishments and start seeing them as opportunities to contribute, we transform not only our own lives but also the lives of those who cross our path. That is the true power hidden in every problem, the ability to create meaning, to build hope, and to leave behind a legacy that matters.